Hey guys, on today's video I'm going to make a almost completely 3D printed mining rig. If you guys saw the video I did recently where I built a mining rig, in that video I talked about building a stand. It's actually not a stand I designed. It's a stand that was designed by this maker on Thingiverse. His name is P-Brick-Wood. I will have his link down in the video description. Go check him out. He's got, I think, 4 models right now. This model he is still working on. I'm going to post this video to Thingiverse when I'm done, as well with some pictures. The first step I'm going to do is build the bottom section of the rig, which holds the motherboard, just so I can make sure that the motherboard I have is the same size as of everything that he built. Before we get into this, I did want to tell you guys about a small change I did. These 3 green pieces, I used different numbers of them and I changed the setup around slightly on mine. On mine I used 5 of the big ones, 2 of the middle-sized ones, and 4 of the smallest ones. So watch this video all the way to the end and take a look at the differences between mine and the original design on Thingiverse, and that way you can kind of decide how you want to make yours. Here I am at my desk where I'm going to be building everything. The bottom part is just 2 of the 90s with one of the large 300mm pieces in the middle. Got some of these 3/8 self-tapping screws that I'm going to use to put this whole thing together. You probably could super glue it. I'm just going to screw it together so that it's more portable and I can take it apart later. Quick tip for any of you guys out there that have drill sets with the removable bits. A lot of the times the hex head screws that are this size are the same size as that removable bit. So you can actually use this section to hold your screw in. 2 of your middle-sized pieces. These would be the 210mm. They go in here like this and like this. Most of my pieces did pretty well. I did have to do a little bit of cleanup like on the insides of little things like this where there was overhangs, but nothing too substantial. These were printed on both my Robo and my Dremel Idea Builder. This is printed with PLA just because that's what I had laying around. I saw a comment, somebody mentioned that maybe PLA isn't the best because of the heat, but we'll also be testing that out and we'll see how that does. Now that this bottom frame is together, we're going to need another one of those longer 300mm pieces. Your 2 pieces that are the 90s but have the holes in the side of them. This piece had a little bit of layer shifting on it, but I was able to kind of flatten down the edges on it, so it still works. Just because I didn't want to print it again. So you put those 2 together like that. Now that you have that, you can kind of pound everything together because mine isn't quite square. So you can go ahead and kind of square things up with that. Now that that's done, you've got your spot where your motherboard is going to sit. So I'm going to grab my motherboard and we'll see how it fits. Here's the motherboard that I have. It is a Asus Prime Z270-A. And you're going to want to put it either this way with all of your I/O and everything facing to the outside, or I believe you can flip it and have it this way with all of your I/O going under where the graphics cards are, because what these pieces are is we're going to build a spot for our graphics cards to go. What I personally think I'm going to do is do it this way for 2 reasons. One, it'll be easier to plug in like a mouse and keyboard because it'll all be right here and it won't be under the graphics cards, and 2 our SSD will plug in back here, and then we can kind of run that cable more easily. So what I'm going to do is I've got a Sharpie here. I'm just going to mark the holes, and some of this is black, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do. But I'm going to mark all the holes that I can secure this with. Nothing on the side is going to hold it because it fits inside our 90 pieces, so that the edges are both hanging off. So we'll just have our side pieces, which I don't think is going to be a huge problem. I'm going to do is set the motherboard aside, go ahead and pre-drill all of these. We're going to go ahead and install our motherboard. On some of these, you're going to want to be very careful, like this one here, because there is a little bit of a gap between the motherboard and the actual piece of plastic itself, because it's sitting up on top of your corner pieces. So you're not going to want to tighten that all the way down, because you'll have a chance of accidentally snapping that section of motherboard. So I changed my plan a little bit on this. I went ahead and decided not to do the 2 on the sides, just because I don't want to damage the motherboard. Right now it's got 3 screws in there, but as you can see, it's pretty stable. It's not going to go anywhere. Here we are on day 2. I've got everything for the mainframe printed. I don't have a hard drive holder or the power supply printed yet, but today we should be able to finish up the mainframe and get everything mounted except for the power supply. And I figure we'll just set that next to it, and we'll set the SSD right next to it as well. For this part, this is one of the parts that I'm actually changing from the original model. In the original model, it calls for these to be bigger pieces. I'm going to do slightly smaller ones. It's still the ones that come with it, the 98mm size for the what's going to be the middle, and then this back one, I'm going to do the 210mm size instead of the 300 like it shows on Thingiverse. So everything here we'll just put together. Then I also, in the design, it looks like this section here is the 300mm one as well. I also went with the 98mm one. I don't know if it's because I have smaller cards, because my graphics card seemed to fit better. I kind of did some mocking up of it before filming just to see. These are your left and right pieces, and you do want to pay attention to which way you're putting them. Make sure there are no screw holes on the bottom. That's how I figured out I did it incorrectly the first time. It's another one of the pieces I changed in the model online. It looks like these are the 300mm ones. I decided to go with the 210mm ones, and again, it just seems to fit a little bit better and make the whole thing just slightly smaller. Now that all that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add all of our screws. So at this point in filming, my microphone battery died, so I'm having to do this stuff all after the fact in kind of post-production. The original version had these middle-sized pieces on the top, and I feel like for me that wasn't going to actually make it to the riser very well. It wasn't going to hold that riser. As you can see now, I've got the shorten things up on the bottom, and it kind of fits perfectly right in the middle of the riser. As you can see here, if I had put that on, it would have hung right off the end. It fits perfectly in the middle of the riser, and this is a pretty big graphics card. Obviously the risers don't change size really, but the graphics card I have is one of the larger ones. I also have a slightly smaller one that I'll show here in a little bit. Here's the final setup. I've got two graphics cards in here. One thing I did notice, since I did shorten everything up, the CPU fan is right here underneath the graphics card. So that could add a little bit of heat to the whole situation of the graphics cards. So maybe doing the longer one at the bottom like it shows in the original would be slightly better. I don't think I'll have too many problems. I'll just keep an eye on the temperature, and you could possibly scoot the graphics cards over. Here's just kind of a look of everything else. There is a bracket for the SSD that I'm going to plan on printing later. If you guys want to see a video on that, leave a comment down below. There's also a power supply holder that I'm going to try to figure out how to attach to all this, because it won't quite fit the way that they had designed, because I did change the design up slightly. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Here's some footage I took of just me kind of putting everything together and screwing it all in. I used those same screws that I put everything else together with. If you guys want to print your own version of this, a link will be down in the video description like I said before. If you are seeing this from Thingiverse and you like what you're seeing and you want to check out some of my other stuff, I am on YouTube. I'm Red Hair Tech over there. I do all sorts of 3D printing and just all sorts of different things. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.